Well, hello. Oh, didn't get much sleep, and the title is I've entered another time of testing what I believe is true. Yesterday in the early evening, 5 p.m., as I was taking a shower, someone came to my front door and served papers on my son-in-law who had just come home from making a court appearance. Had that not been the case, I would have been the only adult here. Anyway, the papers were notification of a lawsuit against me, my daughter, and son-in-law of a court action by PNC Bank to take the home we are living in. Yet another chapter has begun, another time of testing. Hmm. Yes, indeed. And here's one copy. They had three copies that were delivered, one for me, one for my daughter, and one for my son-in-law, which I guess allowed him to sign for it. If it was just served on me, then I would have been the only one that could have signed for it. But they got away with it, and I don't know how well planned that was because his court appearance was supposed to be in the morning, and they misplaced some paperwork, and he had to go back in the afternoon, which means he was unable to go into work at all yesterday, uh, enabling him to be here at the time that these papers were served. Do I believe that none of these things are a coincidence? I don't know. It's possible, and it's possible it's just merely coincidental. I don't know how much is planned, but I do know that I have felt more and more that uh, certain things that I'm doing, they'd like to stop, they'd like to shut me up. And they continue to pull this crap of trying to steal the house over which they have no lawful claim. They even put a chain of title in, which I'm not even in the chain of title. They've eliminated me from the so-called chain of title. Now, I don't know how many documents in the court they had to go and fix in order to do that, but they've presented as an exhibit in their claim a chain of title that I'm not in. And yet in 2005 in July, it was transferred from the Furstenberg Trust to me as a single man. And then, of course, I filed UCC 1 papers claiming the property, and it's filed with the state, the Secretary of State in Florida, as well as the local court system. And I have brought forth the land patent on the property. I have put the property in a trust, and it's all been filed with the court and properly done. There was a hearing in the bankruptcy court where the original plaintiff that brought the lawsuit against me, their legal costs were so astronomical that they ended up having to claim bankruptcy in the whole thing. And there was a settlement offer made, and I went into the bankruptcy court in July 13th, I think 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And uh, it was stated plainly, and I have an affidavit stating the facts that they were not taking my home, that that's not what they wanted, and the settlement forbade any action against me by any other party. The case was over then. But then I found out after the fact that they had put PNC Bank after the hearing, after the date of the hearing, they put PNC Bank back on listing them as the owner of the property. And since then, they have not sent me a tax bill. Uh, so there's a whole lot of shenanigans going on here, a whole lot of issues that are once again being brought to the surface, and uh, they're challenging to take the property, to take the home from me and my daughter's family, including my three grandchildren. Uh, and this is what I found myself in yesterday. I mean, I had just gotten out of the shower when my son-in-law knocked on my door, and I wasn't even dressed yet. I had to get a robe on. He said, "It's really important," and he handed me the papers. And Yes, of course, I read them, and then when I went to go to bed last night, almost 2 hours later, I was still awake, so I got up and put my video from yesterday up on Facebook since it had just been published at midnight on YouTube. And so it's been really, really playing on my mind. Now, there are all sorts of ways to deal with the system that I've been exposed to, including the most recent one that I mentioned yesterday with Carl, whatever his last name was, uh, of just a simple thing of how to word something and how to order the court and get it into the Queen's Bench or King's Bench, or he was talking about Queen's Bench, but I've heard in the United States there's a King's Bench somewhere in Philadelphia. Uh, that's actually the highest court in the land, even over the Supreme Court. In any case, there's legal ramifications, and of course I've notified my friends at Swissindo at the highest level. I have not gotten a response back yet from them on that, but it's not been. I mean, I only sent it like 10 o'clock last night to them, so it's not even been 8 hours yet that they've had it, and they may not have had a chance to look at the paperwork. I did PDF the whole document except for the 2 pages that were in Spanish, which I left out because I can't read Spanish except for words here and there, and it wasn't apropos. I'm sure it was just repeating what the English words had for the most part. In any case, as I said, another time of testing is here at hand, and I will be having to deal with this. I have 20 days to respond. They also will provide from the Supreme Court of Florida an arbitrator, a mediator, whatever you want to call the person, to hear both sides of the story before it would go to before any action would be actually taken. So I'm pondering all sorts of things. How to have some of these people reported with an arraignment against them by the provost marshal, and other things, because these folks, you have to understand, these people are committing criminal acts. They are violating my rights. They are violating the rights of my family. They are trying to incite fear. I really can't say I'm not unconcerned, but I'm not fearful. I do feel it's all going to work out just right. I don't know all the wherefores and the whys and the hows and everything else. I don't have all the details down yet, but I'm sure, as I've won in the past, I will continue to win. I'm not going to lay down and let them run over me with threats of anything. I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to stand in my truth to the best of my ability, as I've done all along. They've never had a mortgage on this property. They have no legitimate claim. Even my own bank manager said, Ron, they cannot change the asset that is put up on a loan. They cannot simply move the collateral from one place to another thing. They can't do that. That's against the law. That's my own bank manager telling me that. And yet that's exactly what PNC has done. They've been served courtesy notices. I only did the first step. I don't go through all that other stuff because I don't want to. I tell them, I lay the cards on the table and I tell them. But I have all sorts of unrebutted affidavits that are on my side that state my case. If they've never rebutted them, they've never even responded to them or acknowledged them in this matter of the home here. And it's been ongoing since July 2005, which is the same month that I moved in, the same month that I took possession of this property as my own property, as my homestead. So here we go, another challenge. And I know from other people, some other delegates are also being challenged in various ways. There are people that do not want a new system that works for everybody. They like the idea of having a slavery system. They like the idea of being able to extort resources at the point of a gun or the threat of incarceration or the threat of whatever. They like having that apparent authority. And somehow, some way, God through humans or God through other created beings needs to address this, because many of us want that world that we're working for, a world that we can actually experience peace on earth, which will never happen as long as psychopathic individuals are running the show. As long as psychopathic individuals are able to step in and block anything good from happening. And all they want to do is keep making things worse and worse and creating as much fear and anger and resentment as possible. Well, I'm just not going to go there. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to watch this unfold step by step, because it has to. And I'm not just doing it for me. I want this to be for everyone. I want everyone to be able to live free and not live in constant fear and constant threat of a criminal enterprise called government and called police and called courts and called mainstream media and called all the other systems that are at work in the matrix, where it's time to bring the matrix down and install in its place, as I said yesterday, a repurposed system that will allow a bridge between where we've been and where we're going, that will allow people to wake up, that will allow people to be educated, that will allow people to finally see the light that they didn't even know was missing in many cases, because they've been so brainwashed and so mind controlled to believe a certain way as a reality. But we're trying hard to change that reality again for everybody and establish the kingdom of heaven on earth, which has been my vision and thought. It's the thought of my mission, why I'm here, and I've known that since I was a teenager. Folks, it's happening. It's happening all over the world as the old resists the changes. And I love that, what Aristo says. It's not me resisting the system. It's the system resisting the truth. They're resisting, and that's what they resist will persist. The truth will continue to come out. The truth will continue to expose the lies, and the light will expose all of the conspiracies that have been going on behind closed doors, even the conspiracy to take my home, which I was never involved in any process at the court level that gave them any right to put them on a title at all. And yet somehow the clerk of court and the judges and the attorneys have allowed that. And by the way, the attorney representing the PNC Bank this time is not a local attorney. They got one of these shyster groups from South Florida that I believe it's called Florida Foreclosure Attorneys. And they specialize in stealing homes from people for the bank. I'm pretty sure that that's true. I need to do a little bit more research on that, but I'm pretty certain that that's one of the active Florida attorneys that are heartless and will go after people even though the bank has no lawful right to do so. They will still try to threaten and manipulate the system to the advantage of the bankers and to the advantage of the current court system, which is an extortion racket. That's all it is. It's a privately owned enterprise extorting money and property from the people and overrunning the people's rights by a system of subtleties and misdirections and misidentifying words, using words differently that are common words that they apply a different meaning to in their law society. Folks, watch what happens. Stay tuned. I don't know what steps are going to be taking. It's too early in the process. I only have 20 days from yesterday. And by the way, the case was filed on January 10th, and the papers weren't served until February 11th. I don't know if that has any significance at all, but that's what's written on the papers. Anyway, thank you for listening to this next chapter in this ongoing saga of humans finally taking back their power and standing in the truth and trying our best to create a world that works for everyone. Thanks. Namaste.